It's been about 10 years since the first Zombieland movie came out. In the intervening decade, 1 bazillion zombie things came out to the point where people just don't even care about zombies anymore.
Yep.
And it's pretty crazy because I remember as a kid, you go through phases as a horror lover. Oh, I'm a vampire fan now. I'm a werewolf fan now. I'm a leprechaun fan now. Said no one ever.
Yeah, I was about to say.
You go through phases. And when I went into my zombie phase, it kind of stayed as my favorite fucking phase, like to the early 2000s. I was like, hell yeah. We don't get enough zombie movies or anything. Then all of a sudden there's just too much zombie shit.
Yeah.
So much that I don't even want to see zombie shit. So I was kind of afraid when they announced that Zombieland was coming back. Because when Zombieland first came out, there was not so much out there.
Yeah.
It came as this kind of like different and unique vessel to deliver the standard zombie mayhem that we've come to love, or we'd come to love up to that point. The ideas, the concepts. Boom. There you go. A little comedic delivery. But now it's like, dude, do we really need another one of these things? Oh, man. We've seen every zombie kill under the fucking sun by now. Sony. Yeah. I don't know where I wasn't excited. And to be fair with you, to be honest with you, I didn't even know this thing came out. Like, it came out. Did people see this? I don't know. Do you know?
It made its money back. I think it cost like around 40 something. They made 140 something.
All right. So chances are there might be a sequel if they ever wanted to.
It made pretty much the same amount of business as the first one.
All right.
Which is interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, that's unexpected to me. I figured people would just burn down on the zombie thing.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that it made money because once I was like, it's out? What the fuck? It was too late. It was already out on digital, so here we are. We just saw Zombieland Doubletap, aka Zombieland 2, and we're going to talk about it. First off, before we get into the deets, for anybody that hasn't seen it, would you recommend they watch this little flick? Yay or nay?
Yeah, if you like the first one, yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where you're going to go with this. If you like the first one, this is a sequel that doesn't repeat itself, but does build on what is important in the first one. And ultimately what was important in the first one are those characters and how they reflect on the realities of life. Because that's what makes a good zombie movie in the end. When you're saying something about life in general through this zombie mode. And there you go. It's just Zombieland keeps it closer to the heart than, say, your Romero flicks, which have some sort of societal criticism.
Yeah.
Although this one does have a little streak of that too, but it's all about ultimately this, this idea of people interacting with people. In this case, the familial bond. So I would too. I would definitely recommend this. If you like the first one, I don't see you being disappointed by this. And that's a hard thing to do because, as you know, sequels, it's tricky business, man.
Yeah.
But I can tell you from I don't know about you, but off the cuff, the moment this thing started, I was like, I'm gonna like this. This is good. It's not. I didn't have a moment of doubt.
I think I had some doubt for like the first 10 minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, it felt a little bit like they were kind of just rehashing stuff. But ultimately, it just became, a refresher to the style of the movies, I guess.
Yeah, it has been a decade, so I think it's pretty fair that they should put you back in touch with what's important about these characters, what defines them. Which, yeah, it's kind of at the beginning 10 minutes or so. But it immediately becomes evident why they're doing that. And I think that's one of the best things of the movie, that they build on what has already been established with these characters. We still have Jesse Eisenberg's character being the neurotic, kind of complacent person, and they use that as kind of like the spurring thing to make everything kind of domino effect off of that. Ditto with Woody Harrelson's character and the girls. They're all still the same people, but that's, like in real life, what makes things get rolling. So, yeah, man, very good to see that, because oftentimes in sequels, either they stray too far from the characters that we loved, and you're like, I don't kind of like this anymore. Or they stay so close to it that you're like, dude, relax a fucking little here.
Yeah. Especially with something that comes out years after.
Yeah. almost like if they're afraid to
Yeah.
to explore or whatever. So that they struck such a nice balance, and still managed to build on that, on what we know and love about these characters. Kudos, because it is fucking difficult, man. It is difficult to do that. So yeah, I was pretty much set to go from the beginning. So let's talk about this picture. As aforementioned, it takes place a few years afterwards. Apparently, the time that passed in between movies. So we have our characters here settling into this complacent lifestyle in the world they've kind of come to define. But then, as circumstances have it, as is sometimes the case, people need a reason or find a reason to move on. And in this case, they used Emma Stone's character's, Wichita's character's inability to commit, and likewise her sister, her desire to find someone to get all this going, and how that plays off of the male characters. So that puts our characters back on the road almost immediately, and the fun happens there. Tell me something you didn't like or liked about the movie, man.
I do like that it is not, once it gets going, it's not super like just saying the same shit that happened in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
They do obviously bring in some stuff that but it's not just like, let's just do that scene again every 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So that's always good, especially for something that comes out so much, 10 years after, something that you just expect. It's literally the same movie again. Thankfully, it's not. But it does still fit into the first movie, like, big time. It feels at home with the first movie.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It feels like a natural progression of events in terms of not only, the things you're seeing, but structurally and narratively. We've reinforced these characters' bond that they established in the first one, and here, it's about the stronger bond that they have, a familial bond that they have, and that's ultimately, kind of like the story arc that binds this whole thing. So it does feel close to the heart. I think it feels a lot closer to the heart than the first one, to be honest with you, because now these characters know each other, and ultimately that what they share with each other, we can reflect that onto our own lives. So it feels like you grew up with these characters, even though you didn't see them for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like they tried too hard to make that happen. It almost feels organic, which is great. So yeah, man, super cool. I will say this one has a lot more in terms of visuals. It's a much more dependent on CGI than the first one. That may be a deterrent for some or not. I think it's very well used, and unlike the first one, there's a lot less focus on zombies as kind of like this centerpiece of awesomeness. There's still a lot of that, but in the first one, they made sure to have kind of like these highlight moments that just centered around zombies. Again, this one focuses more on the characters that just happen to be living in this world. So
yeah, there's no real like hero zombies. Or
yeah. So to me, that I'd rather have that than Don't get me wrong. I'm glad I have the first one. I'm just saying, if I had to prefer one formula over the other, I'd prefer the way they kind of. Now that we're comfortable with these characters, we just relax with them. We don't need to the requisite a cool ass zombie thing here and there.
And it also fits into like they've been around 10 years in this world.
Mm-hmm.
There wouldn't be every second. There wouldn't be like a hero zombie being like, "Oh shit, we gotta fight this guy." It would just kind of become a normalized thing at that point. That being said, they do bring in like this new class of zombies. And at first I was like, oh man, it's like the video game thing. Like the big tank zombie. But even then, that one, they didn't beat you over the head with it. I mean, they do come in later, but it doesn't feel like a gimmick,
Yeah.
So that's cool.
And I think what's cooler than that, that's right. What's cooler than that is that the movie manages to introduce new characters. Some which, upon seeing the trailer, I feared might be grating. But they managed to introduce new characters and they pull it off like almost without a hitch. I dare say without a hitch. I don't know. I can't speak for everyone. Some people might still find one of the characters irritating. I found her ultimately very charming in her own way. But that's a fucking hard thing to do. To introduce completely new characters that kind of disrupt what we've come to know about the chemistry of the original characters is one of the things that can ruin a sequel for a lot of people. You know, like, I don't fucking like this guy or girl or whatever. I think they pulled them off really well here, and I'm specifically talking about this character, Madison. I forgot the person who plays her, but Zoe Deutsch, I think, or Dutch, or whatever the fuck. She's kind of like this ditzy, airheaded type. Very vapid and vain character, which could easily lead to an irritating character, but I think they did it in such a way where it was more of a commentary on certain people in our society, but they didn't besmirch the character of those people either. They just kind of introduced this element that's kind of like a wild card.
Yeah.
And she was ultimately a likable character. Now, I'm going to use that to talk about what I think in a lot of great zombie movies is the best thing. And it's when they say something bigger about our lives or the world we live in or whatever. And this one, I think, does it a lot more straightforward than the first one. I think it's more upfront. And that's because when Wichita's sister leaves off to find some semblance of love, she finds it in the arms of a poser hippie type, and we've all met these fucks, these the white knights or the virtue signalers and all that stuff. Very common nowadays, but guys that are just trying to fly some sort of flag just so they could get laid types.
Straight weenie.
A straight wiener.
Yeah.
Is who she follows, and she follows him to a commune of people that are, basically Wieners. Gen Z hippies, basically. Very much reflective of, kind of like this we want acceptance for everyone mentality nowadays, which is a good thought, but it's not a functional thought in actual society because people are going to be people. So ultimately we have these two types of people coming head to head, with I guess Woody Harrelson ultimately represented Tallahassee, ultimately representing a more bullheaded older generation, and then of course these super hippie types representing the more modern generation. But the ultimate message wasn't this downer thing. It was kind of like, hey, together we can work.
They don't even like poop on the shitty.
Yeah, on the shitty people.
The shitty people,
which we are just doing right now.
Clearly suck ass and should all jump off a building.
Yes,
they don't do that. They don't do what I did. They're just like, dude.
Yeah,
there's a middle ground here,
and that's a very healthy fucking thing to say because, just like in the movie, ultimately our society is what all of us make it.
Yeah,
how we all work together, how opposites and people that are exactly alike, how we all mesh together.
They could have easily done a Romero and just made this like a bad message.
Mm-hmm.
Like these people suck.
Yeah,
not shitting on him, but it's a very easy thing to pick at.
It would be the go-to route.
Yeah, the go-to.
They actually took a route which was kind of unexpected for a zombie for the zombie genre, which was a much more positive outlook, i.e., can we all just get along?
Yeah.
Because that might actually work out. Or I think the biggest thing is the kind of like message that we have a lot to learn from each other. The young, maybe learning from your elders is a good thing. I don't know. They just saved your life. Versus, hey, these other people helped you, do your thing. So yeah, cool. That's a different approach, if anything.
Yeah, it's a middle ground boogie approach.
No, come on, man. Boogie stinks.
Yeah, it would have just been boring if it was.
They would have all had big ass teeth. Speaking of big ass teeth, we have the hottest teeth in the game, Rosario Dawson, in this. What do you think?
Hottest teeth in the game?
I don't know, man. Something about Rosario Dawson's teeth.
She does have a big mouth.
Yeah, great teeth. So just imagine that mouth with janky ass tooths.
Well, yeah. If it was
wouldn't have been
janky
good.
promoter teeth, it wouldn't have been good. Yeah, dude, Rosario Dawson's like a hottie.
Mm-hmm.
She's like low key one of my faves.
Yeah, yeah. Low key, you were literally like jerking it in a corner to her the other day.
Damn, I actually did, dude.
In a corner?
This is embarrassing, dude.
Oh man.
You remember that Rosario Dawson poster you had in the other room?
Yeah. With the three girls.
Jerked it to that once while you were in here.
Oh man, where was I?
In here, like on the computer, and I
was in here. Where were you?
In that room, jerking off.
In that room, just jerking off.
This was like way back in the day.
What if I would have walked in? What would have been your excuse?
Then you would have caught me jerking off, and I would have been like, "It's Rosario, dude."
Were your pants down, or what the hell?
No, I just had my weenie. Like,
what was your excuse for being in the room?
I don't remember. You sent me in there for something, or I honestly don't remember.
It was a quick jerk.
It might have been the time that we were trying to make that like a hangout room, but it was way too hot.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just kind of hanging out there, and I stroked it.
Damn, you used the hangout room excuse?
Yeah, dude. This was a long time ago, mind you, like over 10 years. Probably around the time the first Zombieland came out.
Yeah. The point is, she's aged well in those 10 years.
Dude.
Something about Rosario.
Damn, dude, jerked it. Anyway.
Hey, that's not a bad. If you're gonna jerk it to someone, Rosario's a good way to go.
Yeah.
But she's one of the new characters introduced into this, and I think one of those moments that could have destroyed the goodwill that the movie had built up to that point. And it's kind of like it was seen in the trailers, kind of like a doppelganger moment, you know, where the people we've met meet kind of like their exact duplicates.
Yeah, and then going by the trailers, you assume it's going to be like this major part of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like a small part.
But it ended up being one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
They actually handled it very well, because I say it could have destroyed the movie, because up to that point, knowing that part was coming up, the way it was presented to trailers, I was like, oh man, this is not chiming with the spirit of the movie up to this point. But then when it actually hit, it turned out to be one of my favorite parts. It was pretty fucking awesome. Of course, they picked the guy that's kind of Tallahassee, Woody Harrelson's character, his doppelganger. They picked Luke Wilson to play him, which I gotta say, yes, you picked the right Wilson.
Hashtag good Wilson.
Do not want Marmaduke in this movie.
Oh, damn it. That was a missed opportunity, though.
Well, Marmaduke?
Spoiler, by the way. But if they would have gotten Marmaduke, as in Owen Wilson in this, then it would have been like the ultimate Garfield versus Marmaduke. Because, spoiler, Bill Murray's in this.
Nobody wants to... Marmaduke versus Garfield?
Our brother did. Wasn't he like a huge Marmaduke fan?
He was both. He had Garfield books. Who has Garfield books?
Yeah, well, I did.
Exactly. You jerked it to Rosario Dawson.
Dude, I was jerking to a freaking Garfield.
Anyway, that little sequence was pretty cool. And there's a lot of cool little, like, vignette style, side track stories, B plots or whatever. Of course, when all is said and done, we get this mid-credit sequence, which I think
Marmaduke
one-upped the appearance of Bill Murray in the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, it works because of that.
Yeah.
But they found a way to bring Bill Murray back. And it's actually sewn into the narrative of the story, which is pretty funny. It's a running gag. It's a good gag. It's a gag that's still working 10 years later. And then they punctuate it with this mid-credit sequence, which was honestly, again, one of the cooler parts of the movie. So that's cool, man.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie. Kind of spine tingled a little with freaking Bill Murray.
Sucking on Bill's game.
Yeah, it was good to see him not want to die in a movie.
That's true.
Like, I mean, he still's got the Bill Murray face, but you can at least tell he didn't want to kill himself, like in Ghostbusters remake.
I don't know, maybe he did.
That being said, maybe. That being said, there is kind of like a stab at Ghostbusters. There is like, why this one? Make a third one because he's making Garfield 3 flabby tabby.
It's such a great gag, man. That was like so worth waiting to or half of the credits for. Which, let's face it, nowadays that it's common to see credit sequences. They're kind of, come on, man. You don't need a mid-credit sequence for everything, or a post-credit sequence. This one was worth it, so that was cool. Of course, everybody that was in the original that was relevant comes back. Our core four, if you will, as I like to call them.
Hashtag core four.
Hashtag core four. It's just me. I count for 4 people.
Yeah, that's a good
It's not
point.
good. Anyway, Bad health. Hashtag bad health. So, yeah, man. I gotta say that I'm an Emma Clonite.
Yeah, dude.
If Emma Stone,
as an Emma Clone fan, I was trying to make a rhyme, but it failed. As an Emma Clone fan, what was your thoughts on the clone? On the clone appearance.
On the clone appearance, not gonna explain why we're calling her Emma Clone. By the way, you're gonna have to go to our main channel for that, and even then you'll have a hard time finding it.
Why?
Anyway, Emma Clone, as you know, I'm a Clonite.
Yeah.
I would kill to suck her feet.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just gonna straight up say it. There's nothing sexier than Emma Clone shooting a gun. It's super hot. The end.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
10 out of 10?
10 out of 10 on the Emma Clone front. I do wish there was more clone in the movie.
Yeah.
But you know what? Really, the first one focused a lot more on her and her sister.
Yeah.
And this one focuses more on
Clone.
other things. So, but of course we still get enough clone in it. So that's good. Yeah, man. I really like the storyline they went with. In regards to her, because in reality, if there was a zombie apocalypse, we'd still be trying to fuck and have relationships and all that. That's the reality of it. They even do a throwaway gag in it where, Jesse Eisenberg's reading The Walking Dead, and he's like, this is what do you say? This is so scary but unrealistic, and that's, probably would be more like Zombieland than anything else. And that's ultimately what makes Zombieland movies good. Is that they don't shy away from the banality of life, and then they throw in the zombie mayhem, which just makes it all the more fun. So that's cool. Woody Harrelson, my boy, back in the house. Hard to live up to what was set up in the first one, because there we had a man driven by something ludicrous, but then it turned out to be such a fucking heavy moment.
It was kind of a relief that they didn't bring the Twinkie gimmick back.
Yes,
that would have been like the first thing that would have happened.
That would have been a red flag.
Yeah, if someone else had done this,
they would have.
Like the first scene would have been him eating a Twinkie.
Now they acknowledge it real briefly, but that's good, dude. That's a sequel that can move on from things.
Yeah,
and just keep the important stuff. Like I said, the characters mostly in this stuff, the character work. That's good, because sometimes sequels just have a hard time moving on from, which I get. Callbacks, it's hard, but a callback can be a bitch. Dude, and it ages the movie so badly later. So they don't do that here. They actually find something else for him to do. Now that he's kind of put that in the past, his storyline just focuses on finding someone. He seems a little aimless too. The sole reason he's been hanging all these years is because he's kind of found a daughter in Emma Clone's sister. That's what I'm going to call her. And, now he's lost that. So he's looking for something. So, I mean, it's a good place for him to be. It's just good. The character work is so good, and that's ultimately what makes this sequel stand above your average sequel, I think. Anything else you want to add, man? Bad or good?
Yeah, you mentioned the facts for a moment. I do think that they're surprisingly good for CG. Mm-hmm. CG gore, I think it's come a long way.
Yeah.
There was a time where we were like, boo, stinky. And at times, like, especially when they're shooting the new the new super powered zombie where, like, the CG on the coat looks fake. Mm-hmm. But it's, like, surprisingly passable.
I think it helps that there's such a brisk pace to the editing and shooting.
Like people's heads getting shot off and shit. It looks fine. And I was actually like, oh, you know what? It's not bad. Pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I will say they copped out on the soundtrack here. There's a lot of Elvis references. And we don't... I mean, I recognize that Elvis rights are expensive. Yeah. But you could have at least gotten one Elvis song right.
Pay for an Elvis. Instead you get an Elvis cover. It's not very good.
Yeah. Not a good one on top of that. Dude.
Get it, at least like bring in the Dwight Yoakam covers.
Anything but the Elvis cover that we got.
Me going would have been better.
Anything but that.
Yeah, it would have sucked. Also, my feet stink.
Hashtag stanky feet.
Yep.
Anyway, let's give this a final score relative to its ilk. Films of its ilk, a scale of 1 to 10. Final thoughts, score, give it to me.
I was kind of worried because I did feel it was gonna be a stinker. And yeah, like it just kind of plopped out. But I was actually kind of surprised after like the first 10 minutes of worry, and I think that was just more me assuming it was gonna suck, you know?
Yeah.
I was actually pretty impressed. Dude, look, I enjoy a long movie as much as the next guy, but it's nice to have a movie that's like what, an hour and a half? I don't know how long this was, but it feels really short. And it just being like a fun movie that doesn't have to have this baggage along with it. Like you have to see 22 other movies to get this one, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
This was just nice to have a movie that's like short and fun. And you could just watch without wanting to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Because you have to see Black Panther again.
Man, Black Panther. You wanted to die during it.
It was bad! Anyway, I'll give it like a solid 9, dude.
Yeah, man. If I give the first one a 9, then I give this one a 9. I mean, it's rare that a sequel is on par with its original, and is as good, is enjoyable. You know, in some ways it surpasses it. In some ways it's on the level. Yeah, dude. Really, really fun time. So yeah, I'll give it a 9 too. Didn't expect it to be this good. If I was afraid of anything, it was Ruben Fleischer, who since Zombieland has kind of had a shaky time. Gangster Squad, while I enjoyed it, critically people were like, eh. You know? Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people really were going out to watch it either. Then Venom came along, and I was like, what is that? That's horrid. But then a ton of people watched that.
Yeah.
So I was like, come on, baby, come back. And he came back, and it was really good. So I'm very glad for that. Always happy to see Emma Clone and her clones. Yeah, that's what I call her feet, her clones.
They just look like her, like her face.
Oh, and yet
little awesome. Little cats on her feet.
Big-eyed cats. Anyway, tell us what you think about Zombieland 2, aka Zombieland Double Tap, in the comments down below. Hit like, share, subscribe, and notification buttons because we're out.